Homework 9, distance, midpoints, and circles, video 3. The next formula we're going to look at is the midpoint formula. Now, what do I mean by midpoint? Well, it's exactly what its name implies. It's the point in the middle between 2 points. For example, let's find the midpoint between the points 1, -3, and -4, 9, which I believe are the same points I used in the previous example. Yes, they were. Visually, it's the point that's in the middle, but what does it mean to be in the middle? Technically, what it means to be in the middle is that number 1, you're on this line, and number 2, these distances are the same. But how can we find that? Well, in order to find the point exactly in the middle, we need to find the point right in the middle of the 2 x's and the point in the middle of the 2 y's. So let's focus on the x's for a second. The x on one point is 1, and the x on the other point is -4. So how can we find the number right in the middle? There's a few ways to think about it, and that's not where -4 is. -4 is here. There's a few ways to figure out exactly what's in the middle of -4 and 1. You can figure out how far apart they are, which is 5 spaces apart, cut that in half, which is 2.5 spaces, and then either go 2.5 spaces to the right of -4 or 2.5 spaces to the left of 1, and it would put you in the same place. But there's a much easier way to find the number in between 2 numbers. You know this already, and I'm about to prove it. Let's say that your grade in this class depends on 2 equally weighted grades, a midterm and a final. Let's say you get a 70 on the midterm and an 80 on the final. What's your final grade? 75, because when you average 70 and 80, you get 75, which happens to be the number right in the middle. To find the number in the middle of 2 numbers, you just average them. So the number in the middle of -4 and 1 is their average. -4 plus 1 divided by 2, which is -3 divided by 2, which is -1.5. Exactly where we would have landed using the other technique. For the y values, the lower y value is -3, the upper y value is 9, and the question is what number is right in the middle there? Well, we could do the same thing as before, one of 2 things. Either find the distance between the 2, it's 12 spaces apart, cut that in half, 6, and then move 6 spaces in from either end, or we could just average the y's. -3 plus 9 divided by 2 is 6 divided by 2, which is 3, which is where we would have landed if we had gone 6 spaces below 9 or 6 spaces above -3. So it looks like the coordinates of the midpoint are -1.5, 3. It actually is the coordinates of the midpoint. As far as the formula, it's pretty easy. The midpoint between x1, y1 and x2, y2 is, well, first off, it's another point, so it's an ordered pair. So it has 2, it has 2 coordinates, an x and a y. Unlike the distance formula, which gives you 1 value, the distance. To find the x, you just average the x's, which means you add the 2 x's and divide by 2. And to find the y coordinate of the midpoint, just average the y coordinates of the 2 points. So y1 plus y2 over 2. Really easy formula, but to me it's easier to just say average the x's, average the y's, and that'll get you the midpoint.